pleasure to be amongst the country's brightest minds in sales and marketing. So Richard and Rebecca, thank you for having me this afternoon. When they called me to speak, I said, what do I speak about? And then they said, we want to hear about your personal journey. And then it wasn't clear in the beginning. So we met at the Tower Club, and then I said, what exactly do you mean? So they go, can you talk about personal branding and use yourself as a case study? So I said, okay. So I'll try my best to share my personal brand story this afternoon. And like any other story, I'll start with once upon a time. So once upon a time, there's this bright-eyed girl inside the halls and corridors of Assumption College. She enjoyed immensely, learning and information, and because of that, she was obsessed with her classes. She earned accolades along the way and academic excellence awards. She was a student leader also. And in the course of her, college life, she had to do a term paper on quarrying. And part of the requirement was to invite I have to stop giving her credit because she's already a senator, but I will not mention her name. Part of the requirement was to invite a multi-awarded lady news anchor from ABS-CBN to speak in our school. So I invited her, she went to Assumption, and it just so happened that I moderated the discussion. Probably, she saw some potential broadcasting talent in me that, after the whole forum, she approached me and said, you know what, we're setting up this ultra-high frequency network called Studio 23, and we're actually hiring people like you, fresh from school, from good families, to actually pioneer not just the UHF channel, which eventually became News 23 and Studio 23, but we need a group of, young blood, which includes Miss Kim Bernardo Lokin, one of my best friends, to set up also a cable news channel, which now is ANC. So I said, okay. I went there. About 100 of us were part of this, first batch to audition. Then I said, I probably won't make it. They're, prettier than me, or, they speak better. So I said, let's just give it a shot. So we went there. Now the fluency component is very important. They were looking for bilingual news anchors. Now fluency in both English and Filipino helped because that earned her a seat as a news anchor and executive producer on ANC's primetime newscast. Now since I'm a business major, I took up AB Economics with a lot of units in psychology. So they were banking on my expertise and business acumen to report from the trading floor. And then Ces Jelong said, I'm gonna hire you under my wing. You can help me in the business news. And that was a very good exposure for me because I became lead anchor for Studio 23 alongside a legend, which is the late Frankie Kiko Evangelista. On weekends, ABS-CBN utilized me because I'm bilingual for the hourly news advisories for ABS-CBN. So I was practically working every day. Now, in the course of my coverages and business assignments, I got exposed to a lot of C-level executives. By another serendipitous act of the universe, in one of my usual functions, I was approached by senior level execs from the Ayala group of companies. They invited me to join the fast-growing telco industry at that time. This was 2003. I was offered to spearhead the broadcast media strategy of Globe with PR at its core. From 2003 until 2006, I became the company's face in key media and industry circles, both here and in the region. So I would arrange interviews with Jerry Ablaza, Enrico Hizon. I will invite Twink Makaraig to fly to Manila to launch, some of the projects of Globe and help me communicate the brand, to a broader audience because we have the partnerships with Singtel and Optus and the Bridge Alliance. So, you know, the relationships I had, I found out from my previous career, contributed a lot to my budding, you know, career in public relations and corporate communications. Now, being part of the public affairs and the CorpCom group of Globe, I've established partnerships with key external organizations. This included the business chambers, where I met the likes of Richard Mills, and supported key industries, made sure that, you know, as an enabler for the growth of, you know, industries like the BPO industry. Right? So again, it all falls into place. I was involved in a lot of IBPAP's events where I met now executive of PLDT, Mitch Locsin, who then recruited me and said, you know what, Cathy, I'm really looking for somebody like your profile. Maybe I can introduce you to Oka Sanyes, our CEO, and, you know, just check and, you know, find out if it's a right fit. Now, the whole idea of nation building and Philippine country brand development and providing jobs to 1 million Filipinos sparked my interest in joining the sunrise industry. As part of the original IBPAP executive leadership team we called Team 2010, where Mr. Jonathan De Luzuriaga and I were part of, it was my job to make the Philippines the #1 brand worldwide in business process outsourcing. Here, we led strategic communication campaigns that would make the Philippines a star in the global offshoring and outsourcing space. Since then, which was almost a decade ago, 9 years to be exact, I've moved around, but only within this industry that I fell in love with, the IT/BPM industry, with one end in mind. Wherever I go, I champion the Filipino talent on the global stage. Now, that was just a glimpse into my colorful career. But part of the journey is picking up nuggets of wisdom along the way, which I'd like to share with you today. I would never be here today if I was afraid to take risks. Being a broadcast media personality and news anchor was never part of my plan, but I'm truly happy with how my career had panned out. The truth is, experience is the best teacher, and every experience in the fields that I got exposed to helped mold my personal advocacies. Don't be afraid to lead, to take on leadership roles, and don't be afraid to run the show. In a world where men dominate in the corporate environment, I have always been faced with a challenge to prove myself, especially if they see me in my Jimmy Choos and Christian Louboutins, the Chanels and the Hermes, and then they look at you. Pressy can relate. I'm like, can she do, right, the job of a senior executive? And, you know, Pressy and I were just talking about it earlier. You know, how can you, manage to get their attention and take you seriously if, you dress, well and, you have a certain look, right? It's always an issue in the corporate world. You walk into a boardroom of suits day in and day out. At IBPAP, I'm the only female board of trustee. In Sutherland, I'm probably one of the youngest women executives in its management team. I have one of our directors as well for human resources, Bernice here. And despite that, I'm given a lot of leadership opportunities and a lot of work and responsibilities. I'm part of the cross-functional group handling our expansion plans in the Philippines, finding our next location. How do we take this geography to $1 billion, for example? Where do we locate next? Where do we get the talent pool? So I'm driving all these things. I'm a key resource supporting business development for Asia Pacific, making sure that we have accounts in the pipeline. Not to mention, I'm part of the global marketing team, driving brand campaigns, collaborating with HR recruiting, folks like Bernice for employee engagement, service delivery, and the whole 9 yards. I am just grateful that this industry where I belong allows women to thrive in the global boardroom. In fact, just in my organization, we have a strong female leadership globally. Be divergent. Develop in different directions. Now, I share this popular line from a Hollywood movie. Being exposed to various industries and core competencies like media, public affairs, stakeholder relations, CSR, corporate communications, integrated marketing communications, and brand development, I have come to realize that I am divergent. It means tending to develop in different directions. There is no singular path for us to follow in our career progression. You invest in your interests, your passion, you keep working, and eventually, the skills learned and knowledge gained will fall into place. My exposure to various expertise and industries has given me a better perspective of how markets and people behave. And this has taught me immensely how to lead cross-functional teams and manage multiple projects. At the core of my personal brand story are 3 Filipino values that I have and I'm able to live and breathe day in and day out. And I want to share this with you. Unfortunately, we don't have an English translation for these values. Descarte. I think this core value is underrated. Leading does not mean knowing it all. It means having the wisdom to use relevant information wisely in coming up with crucial business decisions. It is being resourceful and having the humility to seek support from the rest of the team. Malasakit. Malasakit is starting your meetings on time, respecting other people's time, going that extra mile to ensure emails are sent, projects are delivered, and expectations exceeded. Malasakit is what fuels the company's growth. Bayanihan. A unique work ethic and culture we should socialize in our organizations. It is the communal spirit of helpfulness, making sure we work as a team and forget the whole silo mentality to thrive in a matrix organization. Steve Jobs had his black turtleneck. Jeff Bezos of Amazon starts meetings with quiet readings of 6-page memos. Mark Parker of Nike doodles on his notebook. Each of these great leaders embraced the voices in their heads and in turn endeared them to their employees. Authenticity matters. This is how you create your own personal brand. You gotta be authentic. Cathy Ileto is very much the same consistent, colorful, and bubbly personality in and out of the boardroom. And they know that, both my IBPAP crew and my Sutherland crew. And that trademark is unique to me. At the end of the day, my goal is they enjoy working with me and working for me and working on projects or programs that I launch. I'd like to borrow a passage from Jack Welch's book, Winning. Leaders cannot make hard decisions, hold unpopular positions, or stand tall for what he believes unless he knows who he is. A leader in times of crisis cannot have an iota of fakeness in him. He has to know himself and like himself so that he can be straight with the world, energize followers, and lead with authority born of authenticity. I have a support system. You need 2 kinds of people, a mentor and an executive sponsor. These 2 people have different roles to play. I have a couple of mentors, not just one. They're usually experts in their fields or practice and whom I consult with often for campaigns or advocacies that I plan to launch. I usually have several executive sponsors in a company. These are folks who usually hold very senior positions, responsible positions inside the organization. and he or she ensures I get the endorsement and the resources I need to succeed in my role. Because of my executive sponsors, my marketing budgets and PR resources have tripled since the time I started in my role. Hannah and Randy, both my associates, are here, and they can attest to that. Champion a cause and stand for something. Think of one personal advocacy. Now visualize this advocacy and stand for it. We all stand for something, and this can be integrated in what we do. Is it nation building? Bringing jobs to the communities? Or just lending support at the grassroots level where it matters most? What is your personal brand? A brand is more than just an icon or a logo. A brand is an identity. It stands for something and provides a reason to believe in. What is your brand story? What kind of stories do people share about you? How do they describe you? Today, I challenge everyone here to look into your own personal brand. It is more than the brand of the shoes or clothes that you wear. Personal branding is a mindset, an imprint that wherever you go, whatever you do, people remember you in a positive way. Your advocacy is your brand. You and I are brands. If we invest so much creating corporate brands, all the more we need to develop our own personal brands. Companies need more passionate souls in the boardrooms. Be one of those who are bold enough to envision a brighter future, crazy enough to accept unorthodox opinions, and brave enough in debates, or mean to engage in debates for the best ideas. So this is Cathy Ileto in a nutshell. She's bold, crazy, and brave. We need to inspire not only in our words, but also in our actions. Cathy Ileto is all about believing in the Filipino as a global leader, embracing and leveraging our unique Filipino core values to shine on the global stage, and in the process, contribute to nation building. Thank you.